Hi friends, welcome back to Meet the Masters. This month we have a brand new artist, and his name is Pablo Picasso. So let's talk a little bit about Pablo Picasso. So in 1881, he was born in Malaga, Spain. So, that way. So down in the southern part of Spain at the very bottom. Now his father was a painter and he was also an art teacher, so he taught Picasso from a very young age how to paint and draw and all the aspects of art. Picasso was very talented, and when he was only 15, he painted this picture of his aunt, which is something a lot of adults couldn't do, and so he was very advanced. His father decided to send him to the San Fernando Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Madrid so that he could get a higher education, but he didn't really like going to his classes. Instead, he would ditch class and he would go to the Prado Museum in Madrid, and he would go there because they had lots of paintings by his favorite painter El Greco. And he would go and admire all the paintings that they had. Now, something sad happened right before 1901. One of his good friends died, and so he entered what is known as the Blue Period. And from 1901 to 1904, his paintings were pretty sad, and they used mostly blues and greens and not a lot of other colors. Fortunately, though, he made a new friend, and in 1904 through 1906 he had his Rose Period, where he painted with mostly reds and oranges and pinks, and this time he liked to paint people who were in the circus. So a much happier time. Next, from 1906 to 1909, was his African period. So he became very interested in tribal masks from Africa and the exaggerated faces on them, and he loved to paint ones that looked like those masks. You can see that the face of this woman looks like an African mask. Okay, so one of the most important events in Picasso's life was when he met another artist named George Braque. Braque was a very quiet and introverted painter, and Picasso loved the spotlight, so they made a great pair. They were complete opposites, and so they complemented each other and they became great friends, and they painted for years together. Now they really got interested in another artist's work named Paul Cézanne, and they liked how in this picture you can see in particular he kind of used some brush strokes to make it look almost like little squares and broke down the landscape into little shapes and made them look kind of flat, and they thought that was really cool, and so they wanted to do something similar. So together they invented Cubism, and it's kind of like what it sounds. You hear the word cube in there, right? So what it means is you take simple geometric shapes and you place them or paint them onto your canvas in a way that shows all sides of your subject. So over here is a realistic painting of some instruments, and you can only see the sides that you would be able to see if you were sitting right here and looking right at the picture. And it's realistic because it looks like real life. But up here is a painting by Braque, and it is a cubist painting. So he's taken an instrument and he's broken the instrument into little squares and different shapes, and then he's placed them all around so that you can see all sides. And this is very abstract because it doesn't look like real life. Okay, so Picasso and Braque painted a ton together, so much so that these two paintings, if you didn't know who painted which one, it would be really hard to tell them apart. But you can, if you look close, you can see there's some instrumental pieces in there. They really like to paint instruments and break them down into shapes and then make them 2D flat and show them from all different angles. Okay, another way to do cubist art is to use collage. And you may have made a collage before. You may have cut out some clippings from a magazine or a newspaper and kind of pasted them together to make a collage. And this is also the same thing. So what they would do is maybe cut out a drawing or just a piece of red paper in a different shape or a piece of music and in different shapes, and they would paste them on the canvas until they were satisfied. And this is supposed to be a bowl of fruit, a violin, and a bottle, which takes a while to see because, again, it's abstract, so it doesn't look like real life. Okay, here's one of Picasso's famous paintings called Three Musicians. And you can see again, there's like kind of a triangle on top of his head. There's kind of a rectangle here. And so pretty simple shapes that were kind of placed on top of each other. So another great Cubist painting. Now another type of Cubist painting that Picasso is really known for are his portraits in his faces. So here is a good example of where he took simple shapes, but you can see that instead of just showing the profile of the woman, so usually if he painted it, you would only see my one eye and my nose and my chin. But because he was making a Cubist painting, he painted the eye and put it there, even though it's not realistic, but so that you could see all the angles at once. And these pictures are fun because they have a lot more color to them. The early Cubist paintings were much more browns and blacks and neutrals, but later on he had a lot of fun with color. And so we're going to make ones that have a lot of color, so that will be fun. Okay, here is another one of his portraits. It's of a weeping woman, and this is a sad one because during his life, his home country of Spain went through a civil war, and this is actually of a weeping woman who is kind of mourning a bombing of a town in Spain called Guernica. And that takes us to our next painting. This is probably Picasso's most famous painting of all time. It's pretty sad, but you can see the scale with that little boy standing in front of it and looking at it. This is to reflect when German forces bombed a town in Spain called Guernica during the Spanish Civil War. And you can see kind of the suffering, but you can also see that same Cubist element in this painting. Okay, so Picasso died in 1973, so he lived a pretty long life. And when he died, he had over 40,000 pieces of art that had not been sold or given away or anything like that. And they weren't just paintings. So he did a lot of sculpture. He did a lot of poetry. I think this one's cool because you can see how he added colors and his handwriting was very artistic. He did a lot of drawings. I happen to love kind of his simple, just drawings with black marker. And then finally, he made a lot of set pieces. So back there in the background, that's like a set piece and costumes for ballets and different productions. So he was an artist who produced a ton of work and a very wide variety. So pretty great artist. Okay, let's move on to our quiz. So question number 1, where was Pablo Picasso born? A, Rome, Italy, B, Amsterdam, Netherlands, or C, Malaga, Spain? And I know you got it right. That's right. Malaga, Spain was where he was born. Okay, question number 2. I'm gonna duck down here. What is Cubism? Is it A, art that uses shapes to show multiple sides at once? B, a show about Rubik's cubes? Oh, those are fun. Or C, a fear of squares and cubes? You got it. It's A, art that uses shapes to show multiple sides at once. Good job. Okay, final question. Which artist helped Picasso invent Cubism? Was it A, Bob Ross with his Happy Trees, B, Georges Braque, or C, Winslow Homer? He sounds familiar. Bingo, you've got it. B, Georges Braque was the correct answer. Okay, friends, so that was just a little bit about Pablo Picasso. I hope you learned something. I hope you feel a little more familiar with Cubism. We have some really fun projects that we're going to do together, so I will see you soon. Can't wait.